Record to the cloud. Recording.
Well, now it says record on my screen.
It says recording now on mine. So
yeah, when Sean did hers yesterday, it said recording on my screen as well. So this will tell me now, I will know that it's recording because it says recording in my top right-hand corner.
Mine says recording in my top right-hand corner now.
Okay. All right. So I have the notes here.
Is there a way you can turn your phone to the other way?
Oh, I see. Does that work better like that?
Yeah, because if I turn my computer around, it just turns you around farther the other direction.
Does that work better?
Yep. That works perfect.
Okay. All righty. I am trying to, because I'm having my phone charged. Let me try to do that. Okay, hopefully that works. So I'm right side up?
You're perfect.
Okay. All right, so let's start with, the only thing I really need to give to you guys is kind of the why section, because it's a slightly different why. You know, it's not about why is anchoring important. It's why are we revisiting anchoring in MasterPrac? Why are we doing a review of anchoring? And the simple answer is because today, this is what you would say, today we're going to learn about strategies. Jeff McGrail and Veronica are going to talk about strategies. And in Sales and Leadership Mastery, who here remembers, we learned about strategies, buying strategy, selling strategy, decision strategy. And we learned how to elicit someone's strategy. And then we learned how to utilize that strategy to influence them to buy or decide or to sell. We also learned that everybody has a convincer. Now, today, Jeff McGrail and Veronica are going to cover strategies, but we're going to go a step further. We're going to go into how to change your strategies at an unconscious level. Now, I'll leave that to them to teach you, but in order for us to learn how to change strategies at an unconscious level, we're going to be using a process that we've used before in PRAC called anchoring and chaining anchoring. Instead of using chaining anchoring for the process of moving you from procrastination to motivation, we're going to be using chaining anchors in the process of changing your strategies. So it's important today, before we jump into strategies and how to change strategies, that we remind ourselves of anchoring. What are the steps to anchoring? What are the keys? We remind ourselves of the steps to chaining anchors so that once we get to changing strategies, we have our anchoring in order and we have our chaining anchors technique in order. So my job, Dave, is to give you a review of anchoring, just to remind you, this is what you've heard before. And then I'm going to pass the baton to Jeff Stoffel, the leader extraordinaire, and he's going to cover a review of chaining anchors. So let's start with anchoring. Who here would like a review of anchoring? Who would like a review of what you can use to stay in a peak state all the time? Who here would like to have a review of what it would take for you to be in control of your state? Where if you see someone who is not in a useful state themselves, you can use this process called anchoring, which we've talked about before. We're just reviewing it to help them get into a resourceful state. In fact, my favorite word is resourceful Dave. Who is resourceful Dave? I say that to myself, and it brings out the best in someone's trying to call me now. Okay, all right. Would it be useful
upside down
for us to be in control of our state Absolutely. For us to have a greater level of choices, right? For us to be able to snap out of a negative state. For us to wake up no matter what happens in the morning when we start the day. Huh?
Turn the phone back around. You're upside down.
Upside down again? That's what happened?
Now you're, there you go. Perfect.
Well, yeah, I got a phone call and it changed my thing.
I saw that. We saw
So,
the phone. I thought it went dead for a second, and I figured something happened. Then you came back.
yeah, I have 33%, so I can't charge it and hold it right side up at the same time. So right now I'm not charging it, but that's fine. So who here would like to be able to, no matter what happens when you wake up in the morning, to be able to snap out of it, a bad mood, and get in a resourceful state instantly? Absolutely. Okay. So this is really why we want to review anchoring. And now let's do a review of what is anchoring, and then we'll get to how to do it. And that's where you start, Dave. So what I want us to know is that a good speaker presenter, and I'm off topic, this is just for us, a good speaker presenter has a 2-day timeline in their head. A good broker owner, a good agent, has the whole cycle of the real estate transaction in their head. And they're pacing the client through the whole transaction. They're not focused on all that they're doing in the moment and not projecting and future pacing the client over the whole transaction. They're constantly getting the moment-to-moment stuff done with the client while also future pacing them on where they are in the whole cycle. And what I want us to do is I want to relay that over to us as speaker presenters. As speaker presenters, when we future pace them and make them know not why they're learning anchoring, but why they're learning anchoring for something that's going to happen 8 hours from now, it rests the people like Lucas. It rests the people that are antsy and frustrated. And, you know, it just puts everybody at ease and allows them to surrender to your process. So this helps. Okay. So Dave, you could take it from there. That's kind of a good why section.
Yeah. And then the how section, we're just going to use
you're going to the what section next.
What? Okay. So what anchoring is a powerful NLP process where you can control your state. It started with Pavlov, and so I'm going to go over those things, right? I mean,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure because
you want to get the definition?
Huh?
The definition on page 3 of the notes. When a person is in an intense associated state, if we apply a certain stimulus in a certain way, that stimulus itself gets linked with the state, and that can be replicated later on and used.
Yeah, and that's also right here. You know,
yep.
It's right here on the, on the page 47, theory, definition.
Yep. Yep. So if you cover
associated intense state, if at the peak of that experience the stimulus is applied, then the two will be linked neurologically.
Yeah.
Just you gaining the past to past states and linking the past states to the present and the future.
Yeah, you don't really need to go into a big description of Ivan Pavlov and all that because they already have that history.
Yeah, yeah.
I would just mention him. We learn about Ivan Pavlov and the dogs, right? And that's where this came from. And then I would just move on to the 4 steps to anchoring. You can mention Ivan Pavlov. The main thing you want to cover, Dave, is the 4 steps to anchoring. Recall past vivid experience. Anchor, provide a specific stimulus at the peak. Change the person's state. Evoke the state to fire off a test. Yeah. And then, Dave, you want to cover the 5 keys to anchoring.
Yeah, intensity, timing, uniqueness, replication, and number of times. Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that because it's important to how to do it, you want to make sure that you give them the correct distinctions. In other words, you don't want to say something like uniqueness. Uniqueness. It's important that it's a unique touch. And now, number 4, replicatable. Well, because you never really hit the points.
Yeah.
The points in the note says uniqueness of the anchor is also important, because if you touch them in any place where the client accidentally fires off the anchor, like for instance, the palm of the hand, how many times do you have people shake your hand in the palm of hand?
Yep.
During the course of the day? If you anchor it there, it would get diluted and it will disappear quickly over time. So make sure you hit the notes. You know,
Yep.
you don't mention what the 5 keys are, but, you know, ad-libbing, make sure you hit the notes. So as long as you can hit the 4 steps and the 5 keys and give them the distinctions, and then you can talk about precision. This is all in the notes in prac. You have them, right?
I have that.
Then you could talk about precision.
Have the thing here where it shows the same thing
Right.
off the you know.
Yep. But just remember that the binder does not give you hardly any distinctions. Example, the binder does not tell you on page 9 of the notes from prac, where it says when to place the anchor, when the state comes in, when it's visible, and all of a sudden becomes visible. You know, all of these distinctions are in the notes and none of them are in the binder. So, and then it doesn't talk about in the binder, you know, current, past, you know, create memories. It may have something on that. It doesn't talk about eye-hand coordination.
9 of the notes says that it's important to understand and remember the precision anchoring model, which is on the bottom of page 46. And then it goes on the precision model. First of all, go, you know, it doesn't, my page 9 of, is this the same?
Yeah.
9 you're looking at?
Yeah. What's the top line? It says.
It says.
Yeah. Correct. Same page. Yes, it's the same page. Starts with the word important. Yeah. So as long as you cover the notes, because remember,
the precision, the intensity, you know, we're going to take and talk about that, you know, that the bell shape there on the intensity, you know, that's the time where that comes into thing. And intensity and timing comes in there. When you see that, when you see the change in the face, you see the eye color, the change in the skins, the lips.
Yeah.
When you see that, when the timing, we're going to show the application of the anchor and the diagram on that bottom of page 46. And the uniqueness will go over the fact that, you know, we're looking for an exact spot that has to be, you know, like you said, not the palm of the hand, that is something that can be, you know, precise. And then the replication of how hard is it for them to replicate that.
Yeah. So only suggestion I have, Dave, I think you're going to do a fantastic job. The only suggestion I have is just go from the notes.
Okay.
Because I think the last maybe 1 or 2 times, you've been, maybe the last time, originally when you got up, you hit the notes, and the last maybe 1 or 2 times you were up, you kind of went with what was in your head. And then that takes into consideration what state you're in. But anytime you do not go by the notes, you're just going to miss stuff. I mean, it's just, I miss stuff. Yeah. So if you go in notes, there's really no way of ad-libbing or kind of Milton modeling content, you know, throwing some ums and ahs. There really isn't any place for that because you've got the notes and you're literally hitting point by point, you know. So that would be my suggestion. If you don't mind, let's just take a minute and let's have you do the 4 steps to anchoring, because that's the most important thing, and the 5 keys to anchoring. And once you've done that, honestly, that's the meat and potatoes of really what they need to get from you. So do you want to start with the 4 steps?
Yeah, I want to go through the notes on the 4 steps here because I don't want to do that ums and ahs and my interpretation of it at all.
Yeah, because honestly, Dave, if you look at Jeff McGrail, he is literally hitting line by line. He's not staring at the paper the whole time. He's giving some eye contact, but Jeff McGrail is focused on delivering the notes on the paper in front of him. And what happens is he hits the points. Sean is also doing that too. You know, Sean's a great speaker, but if you notice when she covers content, she's looking down at that paper, she's picking up notes, and she's feeding it to the audience. And what I think that does is it takes a lot of pressure off of you to try to, like, you know, I'm going to really make this understood. If you're really hitting the points, you're hitting the points. There's no way you can go wrong.
Yeah.
When I got my speaker presenter training, I was basically told, fucking read the notes. If you want to pass this shit, read the damn notes. I don't even care if you don't look at me. Read the damn notes. Write the notes out. Read the damn notes. Do not have any content errors. And it was brutal. But the focus was more on getting the distinctions in the notes to the audience more than the pressure of looking like I have it all in my head and I can ad-lib it. Now, if you notice, when I teach Sales English Mastery, I have no notes. When I teach Prac, I have some notes. But if you notice, once you get into Road to Mastery, I'm pretty much using notes. And I've done it 1,000 times. Why? Because I know without the notes, I'm not going to hit all the points. And without all the points, they're not going to get the same value. So even if you're reading it for the first time, Dave, no big deal. Just read from page 6, 4 steps to anchoring.
Yep.
Just read it out.
Yeah.
And good.
It says the four steps to anchoring. Recall a past vivid experience, and that is just for you to remember from memory when you had a past specific state. This is a real memory from the past where you experienced a specific state.
Perfect. Go on, number 2.
Then anchor the specific stimulus at the peak of that state, coming in visibly.
Perfect. 3.
Change the person's state, which simply means break state.
Perfect. Step 4.
Evoke the state to set off the anchor to test.
Now, Dave, you just got 100%. I know that sounds crazy. You just got an A+ circle.
Okay.
Anything that you say other than what you just said is probably not going to work.
Okay. I'm good with what you've got here. I'm good with
Yeah.
this.
All right. So go to now 5 keys to anchoring. Go.
So this is the big picture. These are the 4 steps to pay attention to. The 5 keys to anchor. Now, it's also important to keep in mind the intensity of the state, and the state that you're anchoring has to be an intense. The more intense the state is, the better it will be anchored.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Now, someone that does it elicit the state very well, as in, can you remember a time when you really motivated? And they go, yeah. Then they're not going in their state very well. So you want to make sure that the access motivation. You want to make sure that they are accessing the state that you are anchoring.
Perfect. Mm-hmm.
Number 2, the timing. The anchor is the timing of the anchor is real important. Number 3, the
uniqueness.
The uniqueness of the anchor is also important. Because if you
shit. Now I got. Oh, if you anchor. Oh, my bad. I couldn't understand my own handwriting.
Or anywhere else in a place where they don't accidentally fires off the anchor, like for instance, the palm of your hand, how many times do you touch the palm of your hand to something else doing the work during the course of a day? Pretty much all the time.
In other words, how many times do you touch the palm of your hand onto something else
In the course of a day.
during a day? You do it with your phone. You do it when you put your hand on the desk. You do it when you shake someone's hand. Pretty much all the time. You do it when you grab a bottle of water.
Do it all the time. So if you anchor in a place like that, then the anchor will dilute and disappear very quickly. So you have to find a unique place, which is very, very easy to replicate. We like the knuckles. We like the knuckles because the knuckles stay in one place. It's kind of difficult to do this.
Oh, look at this, Dave. It's kind of difficult to do this accidentally during the day. See?
Oh, yeah.
You get it?
Okay.
Yeah, you can do this during the day. You know, my hands are sore, but who's actually going to do this accidentally during the day?
Yeah.
You know, it's very specific. Go on.
Personally, I like the back of my ear for a resource anchor because I don't do this accidentally. And you got a picture of you touching your ear.
Mm-hmm.
The number of times, the more times a person is anchored into the state, the more powerful that anchor will be.
Okay, Dave. Right now, the 5 keys to anchoring, you got 100% A+ circle score.
Perfect.
So, do you see? That's all you got to do is hit the points.
Absolutely.
Got to hit the points. I don't care if you look up once or twice the audience. The bottom line is what they're getting. The content is actually even more important than the eye contact.
Okay.
Now, the question is, if you read it 2 or 3 times right before you get up the day before, which takes you 5 minutes, then all of a sudden you literally can give a little more eye contact and not be so buried in the page.
Perfect.
Okay, go on. Precision anchoring.
The precision, well, first of all, some people go into state very quickly. So if you say to someone, can you remember a time when you were totally motivated? They can go, yes, right away. They remember that that instantly, and they go into memory very quickly. Some people go into state very slowly. Time. Then, yes. So we're looking for the client state. So we're looking at so we're looking for the, I'm not sure what that word is.
The curve.
The curve as any time you go into state.
So now you know that you're syncing the slide,
Okay.
the PowerPoint slide, right? So you have the PowerPoints also in Evernote.
Yep.
So if you're going to rewrite this out so that you don't have to like try to read my word on the day, or maybe read through this 5 times that you really know all the words. However, whatever your strategy is to deliver this to your best ability, you're going to make sure at that point that you have a notation that the slide is on, so you can use your hand and point to the bell-shaped curve on the slide, or at least to their book.
Okay.
Okay, you're doing amazing, Dave.
So going to be as the state comes up, there's going to be a time when it is not visible.
Perfect. Yeah.
Not
On the surface.
it's not visible on the surface.
Yeah. So as the state comes up, there's going to be a time when it's not visible on the surface, right? Whatever you're calibrating on. In other words, the skin tone is the skin color.
Okay.
Breathing.
Okay, the skin tone, the skin color, the horizon.
Yeah.
What is that word? So
Uh,
skin tone, the skin color.
so give it a little bit of time to come in. Basically, that's what it's saying.
So give it a little time for it to come in.
Okay. Okay.
As the state comes up for you to be able to notice it, and at the same point as the state is coming up, it's going to be in a place where you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's where you can see it, that's when you are actually going to apply the trigger.
The anchor.
Anchor. And make you see it. You get your finger on it.
The minute you see it, you get your finger on it.
On it.
So if you want to write down the minute, because I know that's hard to read, the minute you see it, you get your finger on it.
Yes.
See, right now, Dave, by covering the notes specifically, you're giving them the perfect review of anchoring. Okay, go on.
Now, when you get your finger off, most NLP
books
say anchor at the peak of the problem. With anchoring at the peak.
Well, yeah, hold on. Most
the problem with
NLP books say anchor at the peak, comma. The problem with anchoring at the peak is that you get the back end of the state. The back end of the state is the least compelling. It's not as powerful as the front end of the state.
So now you see the state goes up and it goes down. Another state may come up so that the anchoring process is not clean unless you catch the front part of the state better. Catch the front better part of the state. So in this diagram on page 46, the state goes up, and at some point you begin to notice that it goes back down. The meantime, you're noticing
the minute you notice
it going back down, you remove your finger.
Yeah, you get your finger off it. Yep. Doing good.
Okay.
Precision anchoring.
Precision anchoring. More suggestions. How to get good hand-eye coordination when you're anchoring. The best thing to do is just set your hands so that you can have easily access to the client's hand. And that's where we do the put your hand right here and do, yeah. I set my hand here on the top of my other hand, and I set my finger here, and then I ask my client to access the state. Notice that I can put my finger easily in exact same place now without having to look at my finger, because I am studying her face instead. This way I can time my anchors even better. Okay? Is that clear?
Very clear.
Now this period of time could be from 5 up to 15 seconds. I like to hold the anchor with a
varying degrees of pressure,
i.e. more intense the state is, I might have a little more pressure. And as the state goes over the peak and state starts to go down, then I get the hand off. So that's precision anchoring. That's real important. Now help the client elicit that state. We have a script. State elicitation script. The best state to anchor is a naturally occurring state. Naturally occurring means that the client right now is in a state right now. Real intense makes the best. And
Now that happened with Shelby because I just did anchoring, resource anchor with Shelby, and I asked her, well, you know, time when you felt most powerful, and ironically, she picked now, right? So the time she feels most powerful is now. You know, now she's going to her breakthrough. So it is. There are people that can't think of a past powerful event. So go on.
Okay. Okay. The next is the past vividly high associated states. The words highly associated, which means the client goes back into his or her
Body
at
the time, at that time.
Yeah, at that
They
time.
go back into their body at that time in the memory.
Sees what he or she saw.
Saw.
Here's what he or she heard.
Heard.
Feels what he or she felt.
Felt.
Associated. Now you should be able to see then in the state the color palette that makes it clear that.
Yeah, so you should be able to see them in the state, and you should see a color shift that makes it clear that they're breathing, that there's a shift.
Okay.
The client is highly associated. Yep.
If the client just sits there with no expression, no external signs, then it seems to me that you don't have a really powerful state.
Mm-hmm.
Least preferred is a constructive state. Least preferred is a constructive state. How would you be sitting? I.e., can you sit the way you would be?
Yeah, could you sit the way you'd be sitting or stand the way you would be standing if you were totally motivated?
Why more fabricating the real?
Okay, so what I mean by that is, why is it the least preferable? The reason why the constructive state is the least preferable is because we're fabricating it. It's not actually real. We're imagining it. We're trying to create it. Whereas the others, whether it's a present state they're in or a past state, those are real. They presently feel motivated, or they remember a time in the past where they felt motivated. But a constructive state is weaker, least preferable, because you're having to fake it to feel it. So this is the reason why I think recording the video, Dave, is huge, because you get the notes down, and then day before you just pop this on, you watch an hour, and then you come into class and you're very clear because of the, you just reviewed the tape.
Yeah.
Okay. You're almost done, Dave.
Some people, all they've got is a constructive state. Can you remember a time when you were totally X'd?
So now what you're saying, okay, guys, so that's the what. That's the information about anchoring. Now we're going to go into the how. This is a refresher on how you do anchoring.
Okay.
Let's turn to page 47 or whatever page in their binder, and let's look over the script. A review of the script.
Okay.
So here you want to emphasize you're now going into the how section.
Okay. And so that would be the 4 steps to anchoring now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So have a person recall a past vivid experience. Anchor, provide a stimulus at the peak. See the chart below. Step 3,
Well,
change the person's state.
Well, actually, what it is on page 14 is the script. So if you read the notes from page 14, it actually gives you the script, which is also in their binder.
Okay. Okay, so can you remember a time when you were totally at blank? So fill in the state. Can you remember a specific time? As you remember that time, as you go back to that time now, go right back to that time and float into your body and see what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel the feelings of being totally X'd.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a
Long script.
long script. So when you have a person that goes into that state very abruptly or quickly, you may not have the time to say the whole script because they're already there.
So the demonstration, if you want to look at this real quick, the demonstration that you see there is you demonstrate them how to not do it. So this is, I would be doing it. Ready?
Yep.
So you'd be watching me. So Dave, this is you. You're going to pretend you're me. You see the tape?
Uh-huh.
Are you looking at me? I can barely see you.
I'm looking at you.
Oh, you got a side view. Okay, cool. So you're going to show them how not to do it. All right. Can you remember can you remember a time when you were totally motivated? The person that I'm working with is right here, and I'm not even looking at him. Can you remember a specific time? As you go back to that time now, go right back to that time, flow down into your body, see what you saw, hear what you heard, and really feel the feelings of being totally motivated. Oh, right. So what am I doing? I'm showing them a person that's so buried in the script, reading so slowly that the client has already gone into the state, come out of it, and I still haven't even placed the anchor yet. So that's what that's doing. It's saying, don't do it like that. You've got to be focused on them, and it's more important that you get the anchor on at the right time than it is that you read every single word on the script perfectly.
So some people go into the state very quickly. You've got to anchor them right away instead of worrying about saying the whole script. And then demo.
So the demo is you're showing them what people do that go too slow, that make mistakes and don't get their finger on the anchor because they're so focused on the script, they're ignoring the actual client and the state the client goes into. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. You're almost there, Dave.
Isn't that end of it right there?
Well, you've got a blurb at the end. When people think they're in state, you got a blurb at the end of page 14.
Oh, let's see here. When people think they're in a state, they typically
Nod.
nod. The problem with what's that word there?
The problem with evaluating your own state is that you are probably a little late on the evaluation.
Okay. So when people think they're in a state, they're typically nod. The problem with evaluating your own state is that you're probably a little late to the evaluation.
Yeah.
Some people go into state very quickly. You've got to anchor them right away instead of worrying about saying the whole script.
Correct. So that's really your review of anchoring, Dave.
Yep.
You hit the points that you hit, and then if you watch this video and just like a couple things that I filled in.
This video will be huge for me.
Yeah, you watch this video, there's no way you can go wrong.
This is the best way for me. I'll memorize that. I'll have it written down. I'll do exactly what you want.
Yeah, and then you're good. And then the only thing to improve is, Dave, you've looked at you looked through the notes, you watched the video a couple times, and then by the time you get to the event, you're hitting the points on the paper, but you're able to deliver some eye contact. Because you're not, it doesn't seem like you're reading it for the second time. It seems like you've read it through 2 or 3, 4 times, watched the video, and you're prepared.
Yes.
And honestly, you do what you just did now, Dave, it's an A+ circle. It's 100%.
That's
okay.
What I like to know what you want, so that's perfect for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's really not about what I want. It's precision.
Yes.
Precision delivery of content, and that's going to make you shine. And then you'll leave, and you'll go, I feel great. I hit all the points, and I did great. The only way you would not do great is if you don't go through the notes and you don't watch the video and you get up and you just try to wing it. Then everybody would fail in that scenario, including me. Would you believe, after doing now 14 pracs, I still read the notes before I get up? Because if I don't read the notes, I'm going to miss the points myself. And I'm going to look like I'm up there ad-libbing, winging it too. And people know it when you're winging it because we weren't prepared. Make sense?
Yep.
But what you did right there is 100%.
Perfect.
Congratulations. High five.
High five.
High five. 2 high fives. All right. Perfect. Does Jeff want to start up from there?
Yep. Ready to go.
Awesome. Jeff, give Dave some feedback. What worked?
I thought the biggest thing was when he got focused on the notes. Then after that it was a breeze.
Correct.
Just that was simple.
It's actually very simple, yeah.
Now it's just a matter of repetition, getting familiar with it, and
yep, that's it. And I understand being in real estate, being busy, that's kind of, you know. But Tony Robbins would say, if you don't have 20 minutes, then you don't have a life.
That's true. That's
yeah.
true. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I did is on Chick Anchors, I took your notes, and I'm going from page 27 to page 38, I believe.
Perfect.
I printed out of Evernote.
Perfect.
So what I did is I took your notes.
Yep.
Then I transcribed them to this.
Then that's called execution preparation right there. That's called precision NLP preparation.
So the 2 areas that we can get into when you're ready, maybe you want me to go through it all first, is the transition from Dave to myself. So Dave,
I forgot to tell Dave. Dave's still there, right?
Yep.
Dave, so what you want to do is you want to set up Jeff. Just like I will set up you before you get up, Dave, you want to pass the baton to Jeff. Awesome. So here's how you pass the baton to Jeff. Okay, so we just did a review on anchoring. Who liked having the review? Just a good reminder, yep? The 4 steps, the 5 keys, some things to think about with them, correct? Okay, so the next thing we want to do is, now that we have a review of anchoring, we want to do a review of chaining anchors, because as I mentioned to you earlier, me being Dave, later on we're going to have Veronica and Jeff McGrail that's going to be teaching us about strategies. And we're going to be using this process called chaining anchors as a way to change our strategies. So I'm going to bring up the leader extraordinaire, Jeff Stoffel, my buddy, my brother from another mother, to come up and to share about chaining anchors and do a review of chaining anchors. Let's give him a round of applause. Now, Jeff, do you feel like you're a little bit, like the stage is set for you a little bit now?
Absolutely.
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 So now you don't get up, Jeff, to an audience that is discombobulated, that is uneasy about the flow. You get up to an audience that is relaxed, is receptive to your flow right from the get-go.
Do you want me to remind them that Jeff McGrill did this in prac and that they, do you want me to even mention that in a brief sentence?
Yeah, you can say this was covered in prac, but it's pretty heavy content, and it was quite a while ago, and we don't expect you to be an expert. In Master Practitioner is where we start to expect you to create mastery. So I'm going to go over the things, and again, if you have your prac binder, great. If you don't, write the distinctions down. This is a good refresher, and again, we'll be using this for the process of changing strategies, which will be something that will be covered by Veronica and Jeff McGrail later today.
Okay. All right. And,
now, do you want to stop the recording and set up a new one, or is this going to cut us off at some point, Dave? I think this would be smart, personally, to stop it, because then you've got your video, Dave, Jeff has his, and then you can also watch both. But if you feel that this is going to record for 2.5 hours and you don't think it's going to have a memory issue or any other issue, you can keep it rolling. It's up to you.
I say we continue on.
Okay.
okay. So I'll tell Dave thanks for the intro and mention the Jeff McGrill, and that just like what you just said. So I don't need to repeat that. I've got Dave to repeat. So when do you use collapsing anchors and when do you use chaining anchors? Collapsing anchors for movement, or excuse me, collapsing anchors when in the states. Oh, I can't even read my own writing. I typed it. Collapsing anchors when the states have movement to them. But some states have no movement. That's when chaining anchors is used. When the undesired state and the desired state are too far apart, and usually when the desired state is a stuck state, when there is no movement, like procrastination, apathy, why bother, stuck, no options. If you were to collapse procrastination into motivation, the problem with that is the person might be motivated to procrastinate. So we use chaining anchors to get a person off if it's a stuck state, like procrastination. Whoops, like procrastination, and get them to motivation, which is movement. And so it often takes more than 2 states. Why? Because the first state and the last state are very far apart, separate from each other. So we need some intermediary states to get from one to the other. So procrastination to motivation are quite far apart, and you will notice that procrastination is not a moving state and motivation is a moving state. So we would create a chain of possibility, 4 states, starting with procrastination, and then intermediate state 1, intermediate state 2, and then finally movement, which I think that should be motivation, not movement. Finally, motivation.
So what read the sentence again real quick.
So we would create a chain of possibly 4 states, starting with procrastination, and then intermediate state 1, intermediate state 2, and then finally motivation. I put movement. I wrote movement, but I think it should be motivation.
So we would use a chain. Okay, I'm looking at page 27.
Right. Well, the notes say movement, it looks like. So should I leave it at movement?
Yeah, so we use a chain anchors to get a person off of a stuck state like procrastination and get them to a state which is movement, which has movement.
A state which has
movement.
As we design the chain, first we get into rapport, tell the client what you're going to do in a moment. I'm going to do a process called chaining anchors, and then that will necessitate that I touch you. Is that okay? Then identify the undesirable, unwanted state, which could be procrastination.
Jeff, you're right. I looked at it's procrastination to motivation.
I thought movement was just a word for.
Yeah, so it actually, you're right. It says it's on a further down line. So we create or elicit some intermediary states to get us from procrastination to motivation. So you were right originally.
All right, I'll leave that alone. Okay. And then we would identify the resourceful state, the state motivation, and then you get to design the chain. Decide what intermediate states, I have to work on that word, intermediate states are needed to lead to the end state of motivation. You ask the client, so when you're in procrastination, what gets you off that state? After you've established the first and the last state, what are the criteria for the middle states?
Now, if you want, this is a time where you can use it sort of just a joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're procrastinating, what gets you off of that state?
Gotcha.
Right? So what you're doing is there's a lot of content. There's hardly any jokes, right? So it's an opportunity to get them like, what gets you off of that state?
Yeah, it gets their mind going in different directions.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. After you've established the first and last state, what are the criteria for the middle states? Decide the first and last state. The criteria of intermediate states, the next state after procrastination needs to be either a towards or an away from state. Demonstrate how you are standing in the now, moving and facing the future toward your goal is a toward state. Next, turn and face the unwanted state and show how you can move away from the unwanted state by backing toward the wanted, more desirable state. I guess that's not something I'm reading. Yeah, I guess I'm still reading it. I'm going to show them visually, but also
correct.
Moving away from unwanted state in the direction of the resourceful state, you're still moving away from something else. Notice you are paying attention to what you don't want while you are moving away from. Now, the problem with moving away from is that it causes inconsistent performance, but in the case of procrastination, away from is less of a problem than procrastination. So it's more important to get the person off. I could play that one again. Procrastination, at least they're moving and it's lesser of two evils. This next state must have movement. As a general rule, we have found out that most states that are doing or having, they have movement, or doing or having, have movement, and states of being usually do not have any movement. We will be discussing examples of this in a few moments. What will be a sufficiently intense state to move the chain onto the next state? The key word is sufficiently intense. What do we mean by sufficiently intense? Procrastination to burning curiosity. Mild interest, mild interest, not sufficiently.
You're doing very well, Jeff. Perfect.
Thank you. The second to last state, and I did have a breakthrough I'll share with you here in a minute.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead. When is now the time to share your breakthrough?
The next paragraph. The second to last state should be a toward state. So in a 4-step chain, the state right before motivation should be a toward state. Now the word should that be should or should it be must? Does the step just before the...
I would say, well, it says should, but you could put the word must.
Okay. Because my memory said must, but then I read should, so I wasn't sure what you wanted.
I mean, we shouldn't should on ourselves anyway.
Yeah. I'll change that. We must. That's more powerful.
You're upside down on the video again, but I guess that'll be okay.
He's charging.
Okay, here we go. I'm good. I'm back. Elvis is back in the building.
Looking at you anyway. The second state could be toward or away. That doesn't matter which on the second state. The state should be self-initiated. What does that mean? Self-initiated means, for example, that it's internal to you. For example, shame is not self-initiated. Shame is not a self-initiated state, because I bet if you were the only person on the entire planet, you would not have any shame or guilt about anything you did unless you killed everybody else. Nobody around to see you. I don't know if that's inappropriate or not.
No, that's funny.
Okay.
It's actually funny.
Nobody around to see you. Nobody around to notice what you're doing. There probably would be no shame. So shame requires other people. It's not self-maintained. The state should not be how they do it already. And that was my breakthrough. Because it's that whole thing on, if you're doing it already and you chain that, then it's not working.
That will teach you, if you chain how you're doing it already, it will actually integrate the habit of doing it the same way that doesn't work.
Right. But by asking the question, so how do you get off procrastination? If you take their answer down on how they're getting off procrastination, and then you would just naturally then chain that.
Yes. So whoever did your process, if they did not observe the state should not be how they do it already. And the example I always give is the mayor, Paul Leone, when he said looming deadlines. And I said, but don't you have looming deadlines now? And he says, yes. And you're telling me you're coming to me for procrastination. He says, yes. I said, so looming deadlines is actually how you procrastinate.
Right. So that's the next paragraph, and that's where I had my breakthrough. So
Yay!
Dave said he thinks he may have missed that too, but he wasn't sure.
That's why, guys, that's why I'm saying the notes and the distinctions is the difference between failure and success at these processes.
Yep. So I said, well, don't you have looming deadlines already? He goes, yes, I do. And said, yeah, you're still procrastinating with looming deadlines. Then he said, well, I guess I am. So looming deadlines was how he already did. So
yep.
we don't install how the client is already doing it, because it doesn't change the behavior, and you end up giving them another way to procrastinate. So the states you install have to be different from what they are already doing. So those are the criteria for how to design a chain. Now, review of the big picture, the exercise steps. First, you elicit all states and anchor them. Next, you test. Next, you chain 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Now, it says in your notes, now refer to page 49, but I think that's page 50 in mine. And that's really the script, but I'm not going to be following the script, because that takes me away from the notes, because the notes are really different than the script. So should I tell them at that point to refer to script in their book?
No, you're just doing an overview.
Okay, so I'm not going to refer, that's just a reminder in your notes for you. That's not something you articulate to them.
I'm confused. At the bottom of page 32, you're giving them an overview, elicit all states and anchor, test, chain 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4.
Yeah, let me find. So on the top of page 33,
Yeah.
it says at the very top, page 49, you design the chain.
Right.
I didn't know if you say that to them.
No, because they just need an overview of it. I don't think so. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. I think it's possible that some people, for their breakthrough, may want to do chaining anchors, procrastination to motivation again anyway. So actually, in retrospect, I would just give them the page number.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking after this, we may do an actual, not a demo, but we may have them do another procrastination motivation in the context of their breakthrough.
So I can just say it could be found on page 49 or 50.
Correct.
I don't want to encourage them to open up their books at this point.
Correct.
Okay. So as you design the chain, you decide what intermediate states are needed to lead to the end state. You ask. So you're procrastinating. What gets you off that state? Emphasize gets off. Oh, I even wrote that out. Okay. As you do this
So try say that. So say it how you would say it in the class. Go.
So you're procrastinating. So what gets you off that state?
Okay, that's too quick of a. I didn't feel the innuendo there because you were too quick. So I might say something like this. So you're procrastinating, huh? So what gets you off? I mean, yeah, off that state.
Gotcha.
Right?
Spam.
So what gets you off?
No.
So kind of like, so what gets you off of that state? Obviously, right?
Gotcha. So if there was some younger, cuter girl in the group,
You look right at her.
well,
You'd eyeball her.
so
And you say, hey, it's my phone number, 949. No, just kidding.
that's what you used to do, huh?
That's what I used to do, yeah. All right.
As you do this process, be sure to get into each state as you elicit and anchor each state from the present state through to the end state.
Mm-hmm.
It will stack 5 times. You will, not they, you will stack 5 times all states to get a high intensity. Even procrastination for most people is somewhat dissociated. Not all people just doing nothing when they procrastinate. So you may
Okay, a lot of people just do nothing when they procrastinate. A lot of people just do nothing when they procrastinate. So you may need to stack it 5 times, 5 instances of procrastination to get them a solid anchor on the front end.
Okay, good. Be sure to break state between each one, especially between the last one and the first one. Then go ahead and test each state and make sure the client goes into each one. Next, you chain each state together. Fire up number 1, and when number 1 is at its peak, or I want to change that to before its peak, just before, otherwise I'll contradict.
So you know what I'm excited about? Jeff, you're going to do a demo of chaining anchors. Yay! Jeff's going to do transformation.
There,
Yeah.
get extra credit.
Yeah.
Extra credit. Or is Dave going to do it? I don't know.
No. This is Jeff's beast right here.
Dave was looking disappointed. I really think he wanted to.
Aha.
So fire up number 1, and when number 1 is at its peak or just before its peak, add number 2, and then release 1. And when 2 is at its peak, add 3 and release 2. And when 3 is at its peak, add number 4 and then release 3. Note, this is not a collapse anchors because the 2 states do not peak at the same time. You see in collapsing, when you fire the 2 states at the same time, they both peak at the same time, and the weaker one collapses into the powerful one. Then you take your finger off the negative one, leaving it on the powerful one for 5 more seconds. Chaining anchors is more like a staircase where each step is different. They don't peak at the same time. Fire 1, it goes to a peak, then you add 2 and release 1, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Takes approximately 5 seconds for each peak. Once you have your chain created and stacked, then you go to where you change them to chain. Then you go to where you change them together. Chain.
Yeah, chain them together.
Chain them together. So again, state 1 in our example is procrastination. 2 is an intermediate state that has been selected that could be a toward or away state. Step 3 is also an intermediate state that now must have movement, so it must be a toward state. And the fourth or desired state is motivation. Be sure you clearly break state between each one. Now you test your chain first. Now you test your chain. First fire off the present state anchor, which is procrastination, and the client should end up in motivation. Watch their physiology for clues. Now, backing up for a minute, when I'm doing the chaining anchors, I don't break state between each one, do I? While I'm doing the actual.
Yeah, you do. Not when you're doing chaining anchors, and you don't need to. Okay, let's say you're anchoring procrastination. Can you remember a time when you procrastinate? Yes, awesome, clear screen. Can you remember another time you procrastinate? Awesome, yes, clear screen. So you anchor 5 times on the same knuckle, breaking state between memories. And then before you go to the second, let's say it's worry, the intermediary state, you need to do a break state.
Okay, that's not all the stacking on each individual one. But now I'm in the chaining where I'm doing playing the piano, where I'm doing this,
Yeah.
this. I'm not going to tell him to break state there.
No, you do the whole chain.
Right, because my notes that I just read to you said.
I'm almost thinking it would be good for you, Jeff, to experience a good chaining anchors done on you, or you to watch a good chaining anchors done on someone before you do the demo. So after this call, you and I will figure out what that looks like in the next 10 days. But in answer to your question, you will do this. Fire off.
Right.
Wait till it gets to the peak. When it gets to the peak, right here, let go. Rise this one all the way up. Wait till it gets to the peak. Watch their neurology. Boom. Right.
Okay.
Wait till that gets to the peak. Right. When it gets to the peak, boom. Let go of that one. Wait till that gets to the peak, and then off. And then when you're done, you want to break state. What did you have for breakfast? Now, what was the holiday you went on? What's the movie you watched? You want to break state after you do the full chain.
Right, after the full chain, not after each one. Okay.
Correct. The only time you break state after each one is when you're doing the anchoring initially. You're setting the anchors up initially between the memories and between the knuckles. But when you chain the anchor together, you only do the break state after you've done the whole chain.
Okay. So future pace. Then you ask your client, so how do you feel about procrastination? They usually say, great. Then you future pace. Can you think of a time when it had happened in the past you would have procrastinated, and tell me what happens instead? So after you anchor 4 to 5 instances of procrastination and pull the client out of procrastination before you start entering the next state. I got to get my tonality better on that. But especially after you anchor motivation, you then clearly break state, otherwise you're going to make a loop. If someone comes up to me and says, I'm procrastinating, this is the only intervention I will do because it's the best ever intervention that I've ever seen or hope to see. When we did collapse anchors, we stacked different states all at the same place. And I wouldn't say hope to see in my talk. That was in the fact that you were going to have me see one. So we have motivation, powerful, consistent, falling down laughing, love, a time when they had it all stacked in the same place. Now in chaining anchors, we anchor the same but different instances or memories of that same state on the same knuckle. My transition here seems a little odd to me, but I'll say it and then see what.
So I'm trying to find out what page you're on. 36?
37, I think I'm now starting. I'm just going, that was the bottom of 36. Now I'm at.
Okay, got it.
So I'm going from saying that different instances or memories, same state of the same knuckle. Now, do you remember a time when you were procrastinating? Yes, I do. Anchor it. Do you remember another time when you were procrastinating? Yes, I do. Anchor it. Do you remember another time when you were procrastinating? Yes, I do. Anchor it. Repeat this for 5 times. Let's say the client can only remember 1 or 2 times when they procrastinated, but you want to anchor it 5 times, so what do? You have them go back and remember all the earlier ones and repeat. Make sure they get into that state each time. You have to go back and remember all the earlier ones and repeat. Make sure they get into that state. You actually say, go back, okay, go back and remember that first time that you were procrastinating. I guess
All right.
it's fine. Okay, I was worried about a transition, but it doesn't seem weird. It just seemed when I was doing the notes.
So the last thing you cover is page 38.
Yeah, and so it says examples of intermediate states. Let's do a chain design.
Now, what I would say here is if we were doing procrastination to motivation, these are the states that you could use, and these are some states that we advise you not to use as the intermediary states. This will not apply to changing your strategies. So the purpose of us learning chaining anchors today is because we're going to use it as a process in a strategy change with Veronica and Jeff McGrail. But just in case some of you want to do a procrastination to motivation again today for your 26-step breakthrough, let's just take a review of what are intermediary states that are acceptable to use and which ones are not.
Okay. So some examples for you that you could do chaining anchors on are, we've already mentioned procrastination to motivation, confused to deep thinking, panic to competent, stuck no options to going for it all, not knowing to resourceful, overwhelmed to totally in control. There are states, there are emotions. Emotions have feeling. Examples of states. Confusion is away from, frustration, exceptional boredom, that's a good one. Disappointment, passion, excitement, desire, burning curiosity, which is a very good one for motivation. Powerful, when you're powerful, do you want to do anything? My words don't seem right here. Powerful, when you want to do anything, we have power. Do you want to be powerful and do nothing? Passion.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, honestly, you don't need to read all the notes I put. I would just go to the top left and say procrastination, confusion is good, frustration, excruciating boredom, annoyance, disappointment. Towards ones that are good to use is passion, excitement, desire, burning curiosity, and motivation. Which ones I would not use? I would not use
overwhelmed, maybe a stuck state,
sadness, lack of interest, not intense enough, frustration, because that could be a negative emotion, fear, uncertainty, because it's not an intense state. No power. When you are powerful, do you want to do anything? Oh, got it. Yeah. So the reason why you don't want to use power is because power is a being, not a doing for some people. It's like being in bliss. So if I feel powerful, I may just sit there and feel powerful. It's not an action. To me, it does seem a little more action, but I guess when I wrote this down from how I learned it, for some people, being powerful doesn't mean taking action.
Okay. All right. I might delete that portion because I'm not.
Yeah.
To me, power is action.
So Jeff,
I got one more.
A plus circle.
I got one more paragraph.
You do? Where?
Under the emotions, frustration, because that would be a major negative emotion designated for timeline therapy. And after timeline therapy, they will let go of frustration, and that would disappear out of the chain.
Correct.
Fear is also, we don't want to install because fear, people have enough in their life without us adding more in there. The problem is that when we do timeline therapy, we let go of fear, which is also a major negative emotion. And if you add fear in the chain, it would disappear out of the chain in the same way with uncertainty.
Perfect. So A plus circle.
How do I get a happy face?
You get a happy face, A plus circle. You
How do
kick ass.
How do I end it?
One thing I like about your delivery style, Jeff, is that you seem to relax when you read content. It's almost like you have all.
His phone rang.
Or it died.
No, his phone rang. Right here. Take a picture of this. Watch this. Just take a. Okay. And I'll send that to you so you can put it by your bed.
All right. Where'd you go, Kaya? Oh,
He hung up.
I wonder if his phone went dead.
The meeting may be ending too. Yeah, we may be ending a meeting. It's still recording though.
Oh.
So if I ever have that problem again, remember that under participants is where you push that button. Why would you have that participants underneath there? Why would that say that? It has recording symbol, but don't push that because that does nothing. Well, this will be really good to watch. And just before I do it, I'll just go up there and do exactly what he just said and say, "Get the hell out of here." I'm not telling you nothing about what I feel. I'm going to stop all the feeling I have for you and say, you know what? You don't want any of that. You want this. You want this stuff right here.
Should be recorded.
I mean, that's fine.
Don't you want to have some of the feeling in there?
No. Okay. No, I just have to do exactly what he said.
You stop it recording.
We can